Namaskar, Kai.
Namaskar, Shifu.
So you are the first person to be in come forward in this talk, satsang, hearing, Dhaya Dorje talk show.
Indeed.
Yeah, we're getting a fashion here,
Yeah, exactly. New talk show.
Yes. So this space is open for you for the next half an hour, and you are free to ask me any questions.
A question that's been coming to me to ask you is just around.
Sorry, Kai. Just before we start, maybe just a couple of words about you, so people know, who you are a little bit, so we can understand in relation to your questions. And I'm getting some echo also from your side.
Right. So a little bit about me. I started kind of working and training with Dhaya Dorje a little over a year ago. First initially through Zoom. And then that just unfolded in kind of an apprenticeship and exchange, and resulted last November in a very powerful kind of yatra and pilgrimage, helping Dhaya Dorje, being with him through Costa Rica to Peru, through Mexico. So it was a very powerful journey for me, and I'm back here in the States, but still continuing training with him, helping him, and hoping to get to France as soon as I'm able. So it's been quite a journey, and something, we can go into it much more.
Yeah, yes, we'll make another recording for that.
I also say I'm still here and still very motivated to learn and study and train and help. So very happy to be here.
Thank you.
All right. Yes, and the question. But as a student, someone on the path, and you as my teacher, I've been reflecting just on this question and this feeling of devotion in relation to the Dzogchen teachings and your teachings. And if you could just kind of comment on how devotion unfolds on the path and how its function in a way, because I hear a lot about it in Dzogchen teachings, its importance. So I'd love to hear more about your experience with devotion and how important, why it's important on the path.
Yes, let me take this sound out of my phone. Okay. Well, I remember you asking me this question before. In the sense that many people have an idea of the devotion, especially in the Vajrayana and Dzogchen, more related to the teacher, and or even in the Indian tradition, people are there, bowing down to the teacher, and they give, in some ways, their power away. But in the relation of Dzogchen or myself, anyway, I don't see it like this. The devotion is not, it has to be there, but for the teachings. And this devotion for the teaching, which is more like a trust, it's a surrender to the teachings. And it doesn't come just to say, okay, I decide I surrender. or I decide I trust, I decide to have a full devotion for the teachings. It comes more from a place where you have started to build the experience within yourself, you know.
Mm.
And more you build the experience within, the more you see that it is functioning, and more you start to trust, and more you
Mm.
start to surrender to the methods, to the teachings. Maybe I should put on you, or can you put your, I can hear myself on your
Mm.
speaker. Or maybe I should go, because we are new at this, I am new anyway.
Right.
Is any way I can put you mute, or
Maybe I'll mute myself.
yeah, mute yourself, and when you want to talk, you can put it. It's only one for you. Okay, that's great. Okay, so it is more a question as you build your experience, with the teacher, with the teachings, and more you are starting to experience your true nature, and then you see that things are functioning. You feel that things are happening for yourself. Then only you can say, okay, I feel a devotion from the teachings, I trust the teachings, I surrender more and more. This is what we can say. It is important to have devotion related to Dzogchen, or I think any tradition anyway, uh, um, in a sense that sometimes in Dzogchen they will say, okay, you have to give devotion to the teacher, in the sense that because we have the Guru Yoga, where you unite you with the state of the teacher, you know. So when the teacher is in the state of Dzogchen, or the state of Tao, let's say, or being like the divine, manifestation, then when you connect to his state, then you can have some you can yourself be dwelling into his energy field that brings you to the state. So it is in this way that they say, okay, you must have devotion to the teacher. But today I feel there's a lot of ambiguity around this topic, you know. And we have seen in the Western society, especially, that some people that been putting too much their power away, by giving the power to the teacher, and that doesn't work in a way that the Western society see it, you know. Because in Asia, it will be more like, okay, in Asia, a long time ago, for example, you go see a teacher, maybe he gives you some task to do. And maybe you're going to groom the yard for 1 year before he gives you one little teaching, But this is also to see how much motivation you have, you know. And when you're going to receive the teaching, then you're going to be really motivated, and you're really going to trust it, and apply it, because you have put so much energy before. Now people, they come and they can receive everything into a plate. And even on the internet, so much thing free, there. And somehow it's losing its quality because people don't take it seriously. Most of the time, the most profound teachings are very, very simple. It's very simple, very direct. But to be able to grasp this simplicity and apply it with total surrender, trust, devotion, in general, it requires some preparation. Like maybe in the old days, you would be grooming the yard for 1 year, So you have put all this, and then after the end of the year, when you receive the teaching, you see some value and trust into it. You say, wow, this is like great. I worked so hard for that, Then you're really going to apply it fully. So this is how I will explain, the devotion in relation to the teachings, not only Dzogchen, for all teachings. From my vision, someone else's vision is different. It might be different. Is that good, guy?
That was beautiful, Shifu. As always, I feel you're speaking directly to me, directly to my experience, because that's very much been how it's unfolded for me, that trust and that surrender and that inner experience of realizing the value of the teachings and how it's unfolding and just growing that natural appreciation and devotion. And so always feeling coming back to myself, um, and me too, I've experienced um, communities or places where the devotion to me just seemed a little manipulative. So it's very refreshing to be with a teacher and teachings where that's really not the case by any means. Um, um, hmm. Another question I have personally, just around your lineage and your background, which I find very interesting and unique, is what you've talked about, kind of this Mahasiddha tradition, this fusion of the Mahasiddhas of China and Nepal and India. And I was just wondering if you could perhaps talk a bit about the similarities and synchronicities behind all of that. Um, you know, perhaps with the intention of just inspiring others. And I just feel it's a very unique thing that you hold. So I'd love to hear more.
Yes. For this, we have to go back a little bit in history. You know, I can mention some example of great teachers. Let's start from South India, from Tamil Nadu, for example. You know, which is the land of the Siddhas, Siddhas from South India, because this word Siddha is most used in South India, but it is in the north, but we will call them more rishis. You know, the Siddha, for the people that don't know, are yogis that have attained some divine power, but divine power coming from within, you know. One of the first one who comes to my mind right now, it will be Dharma or Bodhidharma. You know. Bodhidharma come from South India, and then he traveled all the way to China, you know, to establish then after hardship, you know, establish the teaching of Chan, Zen, which is very popular in the West. It's more the Zen than the Chan. Um, yeah, I can embark in the long story about Bodhidharma and my meeting with Bodhidharma, you know, spirit, and while traveling in China and meditating in different places where he has been, and you know, and especially in the final cave where he stayed for 9 years, facing the war near Shaolin. But I don't see that this is like answering your question. So I will just continue with example. So we had, you know, Dharma, Bodhidharma who traveled from South India all the way to China, you know, and I would say that this distance between South India, Tamil Nadu, and China has been the main influence of my being. Of course, there is also the Essene influence that is very strong in me from the pre-Christian teaching, you know, um, before the venue of Yeshua Christ, you know, and its continuity, but things also like kind of um, deteriorate, you know, like many great teachers. They try to bring a universal message, and then human being change and start to make a religion, or you know, big kind of dogmatic groups or teachings, not being free anymore, you know, where people get entangled and trapped. Then we can take another Mahasiddha who has traveled from South India all the way to Tibet, is Padapak Sangye, you know, which actually can be a manifestation of Bodhidharma, some Tibetans say, you know. But he's a great Mahasiddha from South India, and went all the way to Tibet, and he lived hundreds of years. It was not, his lifespan was not short. And also in his different years and journey through India, Himalayas, and even Western China, he has brought his teaching in different ways and realized different powers within his being and a different type of understanding that was influenced from different type of tantras. When we say tantra in this context, it's like the teachings. Um, and then he was a great influence in Tibet that connected to the practice of chud with a magic light run, because he was the one to teach chud to magic light run. And this practice got very much alive up to today. One of the main places that I've been connected to him and also Damo, both of them is in Yunnan, where it's a cave, where they both practice. And yeah, but I think Damo was there before. Some Tibetans say it's only Padmapal Sangye. Around all these stories, there's always some people saying one thing and the other. Um, there's nothing certain because nothing is proved officially. For me, I just go on the site, I experience what comes through me, and I can connect with the memory of the rock, the land, and this is how I get to the information. And many times also can access the hidden lands connected to the place, but is hiding much knowledge, and most of the time in those hidden lands, one is able to reconnect directly with the Mahasiddha who was living in this area, because when they practice in such area, we leave some traces. But those traces are not necessarily accessible by everyone. Then we have also a great Mahasiddha like Go Rinpoche, who has traveled from Odiyana, north or western, like around Pakistan, Afghanistan, Kashmir area, and he was invited by the king of Tibet to make peace in Tibet, So he also traveled through the southern part of the Himalayas all the way to Nepal and Sikkim, and then went to Tibet, So we all have this movement. This is like not only, and he was like much influenced by some old Indian tantras, and then Buddhist. It's like it's mixed Indian, all this, but Buddha also realized himself in India, So that's how all is mixed up, even if we take a Idam or like Tara, representing the divine mother in Buddhism, the feminine manifestation, it's her cult comes for way before Buddhism. It was already, the Tara cult was already existing in India, So we have all this mixed, Then if we go, in relation from China, some of the Taoist immortals, I went to some places where they met with some of the Taoist hermits, were exchanging knowledge with some of the Buddhist one, And those places are very interesting to see, to experience how both traditions complement each other. So with all these varieties is moving like this, and then we are going more toward Southeast Asia, where the Buddhism was brought, Thailand, and then all the other places, mixing with some shamanic culture, local shamanic culture, and So the Mahasiddha has been present like this in my life, because I spent so many years in India, which is more like the root, all this. Because so many have traveled from India to other places. And then after, the exchange was backward, from both places, all over Asia, going back to India. So my journey has started with the Tao path. So I was much more connected to with the Taoist immortals, or Taoist Mahasiddhas, if you want to say, And then after, to Dzogchen, my teacher, Namkha Norbo Rinpoche, And then after, with the Siddha of South India, with Mahathir Babaji, Valalar, King of the Siddhas, and so on, and continuing the journey this way, So in some ways, when we are looking in true knowledge, of course, it is important to, when one started to be fully into one tradition, like I was fully involved in one tradition at a time. But now, after years of practicing with the Tao, years of practicing with Dzogchen, years of practicing with the Siddhas of South India, then all can make coherence and understanding how they can merge the knowledge. The essence is the same, But I would not recommend anyone to start to mix up everything, So once you gain the knowledge in one tradition, if you are practicing, you practice this tradition, Doesn't mean you cannot do another one, but you separate it, So now if I do like a tune, that means a time of practice, in Tibetan, it's a time of practice. I do this tune. This tune, I decide I do, for example, Dzogchen practice, then, which is in the Dzogchen methods, I would say, then I apply only that. I'm not going to start a Dzogchen method and then bring something from South India Mahasiddhas, or something from Tao inside this. And then I can start to make a mix everything. It doesn't work, Then you don't have guarantee that the method is bringing you to what you are, but what they are meant to, Each method is being very much proven, created by a Siddha, or a high practitioner. And then his effect has been proven over time. So you know that if you apply such method, you have that result. In the New Age today, people are gathering all kinds of information from everywhere, but nothing is proven, not even within themselves, because they're just navigating into a field of different type of experience that can be like having drugs, hallucinations, but it's not bringing one to direct knowledge. It's like we are constituted of a big puzzle, let's say, Okay, the essence of true nature is all the key of all the puzzle, but maybe one is not doesn't have the capacity to realize that right away. So then maybe he's having experience of one part of his puzzle, another part, another part, another part, another part, another part, and then everything gets back to itself, and oh yes, now is this my true nature is coming out. So that's why we have methods. Each method is a part of the puzzle. Unless you are practicing the advanced method that brings you to the essence of the puzzle, the piece that makes all the piece together in one. So yeah, is that to answer your question, Kai? I cannot hear you.
Yes, it did. And yes, it did. And it answered other questions I didn't even need to voice. So thank you.
You're welcome.
It was very good. Do we have time for one more, or maybe?
Yeah.
Let's see. this just came to me because, I've been practicing Dragon Buddha yoga more devotedly now and with more regularity. And I just really, like you mentioned in your first answer to my question, really beginning to see its effects and really beginning to surrender and appreciate the teachings. And I was just wondering if you could talk a bit more about its uniqueness and why you feel it lays such a powerful foundation for the rest of your teachings.
Well, I try to make it short because
Yeah.
it can be a long question, you know. Well, before I discovered the Dragon Buddha yoga, originally the Residaton, the Thai yoga at its origin, but the way I teach it is a bit different than what is taught out there. Positions are the same, for example, but the full spectrum of it and why we practice and what it brings is a bit different. It's more like in a Dzogchen principle, but everything is made to experience, to come to a place where you can experience it through nature, or at the beginning, relaxation, then the presence, and then the extended presence. The difference when I was studying Thai massage in Thailand, when I was sitting near a Risidaton statue, and when I was studying in Wat Po, I had class also about Risidaton. And the Risidaton talked to me and say, okay, you have to create a book and you have to teach your Risidaton. That was the beginning. It took many years before I realized the book, and then this course online only last year, so maybe 10 years gap, between. And in Thailand, I made research. I was looking for practitioners and all this. I didn't have good success with quality in my standard. But I was able to collect some poses and all this. And then only with the guidance of the Risidaton immortals, Masidas, and I would say to mainly Buddha Sakyamuni, and the dragon world of the different Buddhas, because dragons are big detentor of knowledge, from the upper realms. And many great Mahasiddhas, Buddhist Mahasiddhas are practiced in places where they were empowered by dragons, like Dharma, for example. So only like this, all the knowledge was brought back together, and this is this knowledge that I transmit. It is very unique because this approach is very much Shan, Zen, let's say, But everything is made to create more spaciousness within your body, your joint, your mind, the energy flowing, coming to a point that it is so spacious that there's no more space, there's no more matter, So by this process of practicing, we are able to really experience a true nature, but is beyond any form of attachment connected to the body, the energy, the mind, the emotions, and all this. And it's extremely healing. I would say I don't like anymore to use the word healing. I use transformative. Transformative of whatever. Yes. So for now, I think that's. I stop there because we are running out of time. But is that answering your question, Kai, or you would like to have more?
No, I felt that was appropriate. That answered my question.
Okay. So thank you very much, Kai.
Yes. Thank you, Shifu.
We are going to conclude just with a little Om in silence. Om. May you all benefit from this sharing. And I invite anyone who is interested to participate to such exchange, satsang, with myself to contact me. So blessing to everyone. Thank you very much, Guy. Pleasure to see you.